Hi friend, Maria Gabriele here, your clinical pharmacist turned Ayurveda health counselor. And today I'm going to be tackling sleep. Sleep in perimenopause. Now I know this is a tough one for a lot of reasons and I've been there with you. I have had hot flashes disturb my sleep. I've had trouble going to sleep. I've woken up at 3 a.m. with my mind racing, with stress, whatever random to do that I forgot for that day or that I'm supposed to do the next day. I've also woken up after what I thought was a decent night's sleep feeling like I didn't sleep very well at all. So it's really important, and in Ayurveda, it's actually one of the 3 pillars of health. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit here in a moment. But one thing that I want to say is that a lot of times in the Western mindset, the way that we've been taught is we've been taught that if you have a quote, and this is actually how they teach business things too, by the way, there's a quote unquote pain point. There's something that is causing you pain, either literally or figuratively, and there's a drug for that, or there's a supplement for that, or there is one solution, one tip. This one tip will get you there. And the same thing happens actually to us in the way that we think about the holistic model. I think we have to retrain. So I'll probably be saying this a lot as I walk through different things that happen in perimenopause. But here's the deal. Everything affects everything else. When we're talking about holistic model, we're talking about you as a whole person, WHOLE, right? So I'm not just talking about like in the Western model, it would be like, what's for sleep? What's good for sleep? And it's like, well, melatonin. So that's not a holistic thing. That we're just saying a supplement, just because it's not a drug. I could also say Ambien or Benadryl, and those 2 drugs are sometimes used for sleep. And and when we're talking about holistic and the whole of you, it means that whatever you're doing in your life is going to affect the quality of your sleep. And so it could be as simple as making lunch the bigger meal of the day, and that would affect your sleep at night if you're eating a lighter meal. It could be, working on having more times during the day that you breathe through stress, and that could decrease the amount of that your mind is racing at night. And everything starts with a shift in mindset as to how we tackle this. And so that is number 1. And part of that shift in mindset is acknowledging that every single thing that we do in our lives, down to the tiny choices that we make, affect how we're living, how we're being. And so those choices are adding up also for this particular quote unquote symptom of I'm not able to sleep. And so let's talk about that a little bit more. And in this video, I'm going to give you my favorite 3 key practices to start to get your sleep back on track. And these have worked for me time and time again. And I'm really excited to share them with you today. So here's what I consider the foundations. Well, these are the foundations of Ayurveda in terms of the pillars of health. And the pillars of health in Ayurveda are usually ordered in the order of food, sleep, and sex or energy. And for me, in my mind, in perimenopause, this shifts a little bit and sleep becomes the cornerstone of everything else. Now, I'll say that, of course, mindset is underneath this. Mindset is going to be important to the entire process of us feeling our best during perimenopause. And then sleep is right above that. So this isn't to say, so in Ayurveda, we talk about how digestive fire is everything. And it truly is. Part of the problem is, of course, everything feeds into everything else. And when we're not sleeping, we then lose the ability a lot of times to make the choices that really help to support the digestive fire. And so we want to get into this feedback loop that is actually positive for us in terms of being able to complete our daily routines, eat food that is nourishing to us, have good sex, and sex is not just sex as in like like sexual energy, but sex in the idea of the energy that runs underneath everything. Energy right along that, your immunity, your vitality, your ability to stave off getting sick, and also your connection to spirit lives here. And then at the top of the pyramid, supplements are supplemental, herbs are supplemental, and HRT is an option at the very top. But really, when our bodies start to have symptoms, we need to address all of these things, and often people start at the top. So I'm going to encourage you to start down here, especially, and I'm sure that if you're watching this, it's probably because you are already suffering from the consequences of, having your sleep disturbed during this time of life. And these are things that you probably know, but I want you to see named so that you can feel so seen in these things. Like I said, I have been there, and I even as recently as last week, it's not perfect for me, but I feel like now I have the tools to get myself back into deep restorative sleep. But when we don't get good sleep, we are affected the way that we feel, our mood. We're affected in the choices that we eat. So maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't, but there's a few things when you don't get deep restorative sleep, it actually affects satiation. So there's a hormone that is affected that then when you eat food during the day, you don't feel as satiated. And in Ayurveda, what we talk about is when you don't have deep sleep, you have an increase in the air and ether element in you. And food is inherently the earth element. It's grounding. And so it's going to balance out that air and the ether. And that's part of the reason why when you don't have good sleep, you feel so hungry. You feel like you can't eat enough food. And so then what happens, right? We come over here and it affects our weight gain. And that also affects, in perimenopause, the unwanted weight gain and the weight gain into the belly. So again, all these things being connected. Sleep also affects the clarity of our thoughts. And so this might then have you searching for a word in the middle of a presentation at work. It might have you feel like you're not able to be efficient in the way that you normally are. It's going to affect clarity of thought. And so it could add to that brain fog feeling. Again, being one of the foundations of everything in terms of feeling well in perimenopause. It also messes with our resiliency, our ability to handle stress, changes, pivot, as it were, is going to be affected by not having enough sleep. And then obviously your energy level. And some things that you're not seeing here on this chart that are known to be affected long term, Western medicine has studied these things, are going to be things like heart disease and dementia, obesity, and weight gain. Those are all things that long term can be affected and can be caused by not having enough good restorative sleep. One of the other things I want to say here too about sleep is that it's different for everyone. Some of us need more and some of us need less, but most of us are fooled into thinking we can get away with less. So for the most part, most of us need more sleep than what we're actually getting. So that's also another thing, is creating the space for us to have enough hours to sleep. Personally, I need somewhere around 8.5 hours, which is on the higher end. Some people need as little as 6, and some people need as much as 9. And so just knowing over time, noticing where you fall into it and not fooling yourself into thinking that 6 is enough for you when, like for me, if I was getting 6 hours of good sleep at night, I would still feel like a zombie. So understanding that. So another thing that I want to speak to here is, why is it that this happens in perimenopause, that we start having this difficulty sleeping? So really the reason that we're starting to struggle with difficulty sleeping during this time comes back to how I was talking about the cornerstone of Ayurveda being around digestion. Part of what happens during perimenopause is that our digestive fire naturally is decreasing. That's just part of the process of aging. But it's not just the whole like, oh, you're getting older and that's just a part of it. No, no, we're not accepting that. It's also that a combination of other things. So our fertility, this ability that we have every month when we're menstruating to build tissue, preparing the body for pregnancy, and those hormones that go along with it are buffering us. Every time that we do this, we go through the menstrual cycle and we build that tissue, we're also building the digestive fire. And so that's one of the reasons we have higher digestive fire. The other piece is that what we've done over the last 20 or 30 years is accumulating. And so if we've made a lot of choice, most of us have, this is again, not us living in a culture that really prioritizes being productive, pushing through, getting as much done as not humanly possible. We accumulate the choices of things that haven't nourished us. And those things, experiences that we haven't had time to digest, for example, and stress that we have, again, simply pushed through, choosing food that wasn't a great, wasn't what we knew wasn't nourishing, using alcohol to treat our anxiety, deciding that working to get to the deadline is more important than having the sleep that we needed. All of those things accumulating. We have then things that we have not digested in our lives that turn into undigested toxins. In Ayurveda, we call it ama. And that undigested toxin then also dampens the digestive fire. It's like a film over that digestive fire. And so on top of that, we have toxins that or experiences that we haven't digested. And we're talking about digestion on all the levels, on the cellular level, on the emotional body level, and at the belly level. On top of that, then we also have toxins that we are unable to digest in our environment, things that we can't control. So there are toxins in our food, in our water. There's toxins in our beauty products, in our cleaning products. There's just things that we can't get away from. And with all of this, on top of that, the stress, just general stress, adds to the dampening of the digestive fire. And so, and our sex hormones can support our stress hormones, but the opposite is not true. So all of this basically then is making it harder for us at night. The purpose of sleep is for us to be able to transform and digest all of the things from our day, but that ability has gotten dampened. And so we have to do a few things to shore that back up. And so I'm going to show you here my 3 key practices to help with getting back to restorative sleep and restoration for the body. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I wanted you to have honestly, if you do these 3 things consistently, this might be enough to get your sleep back to the deep sleep that you're dreaming about. And I mean that pun intended. Okay, these are the 3 key practices. Number 1, in bed by 10 p.m. And this is cute. In bed by 10 p.m. is really asleep by 10 o'clock. For your brain and your body to digest the day. And why is that? In Ayurveda, there are 4-hour periods that have different energies to them. And the time from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is the fire time of night. And so during that time, we are transforming the day, digesting the day. And if we're not asleep by 10, this is a lot of times where people get that second wind, then we're not actually using that energy to digest the day. And it's said that the time between 10 p.m. and midnight counts double for sleep restoration. So you can get the exact same amount of sleep, and yet not feel as restored as if you go to bed, if you are asleep by 10. I was super skeptical about this myself. I'm a reformed night owl, and when I first heard about this, I was like, there's no way. There's no way that this is actually a thing. And then I tried it, and I had to actually take some time to try it. So I had to turn my bedtime back by 15 minutes at a time to do this. And it took me probably about 4 to 5 weeks. I used to go to bed during the weekdays, probably between 11 and 11:30, and then on the weekends, always after midnight. And when I finally, and if I did initially try to go to bed before 10 o'clock, and if I did that, then I'd just be laying there like awake, annoyed that I was in my bed early. And so when I finally did this whole like turn it back 15 minutes at a time, and then got into bed and was asleep by 10, I was floored, so surprised at how much better I felt in the morning, even though I had gotten the same amount of sleep by 10 p.m. Now there is some emerging science around this as well, that there's potentially higher lymphatic drainage during this time. The lymphatic system is your brain's lymph node system. And so, as per usual, what I see is that Western science is always trying to catch up to Ayurveda and what has been known for thousands of years in this ancient science. And so it's funny to me. I like to bring it in because my science brain likes it, but honestly, try it, prove it to yourself, because you will be amazed at how these little things make such a difference. The second key practice, and I know that you've heard about this on some level because it seems to be part of the popular zeitgeist these days, is finding a wind down routine. And of course, this includes being off screens, because screens mimic sunlight. So sunlight's going to decrease melatonin and bring cortisol up at night when you want the opposite thing to happen. And so being off screens for at least a half hour, if not an hour would be ideal before you get into bed. And then figuring out, this is really personal, figuring out your own wind down routine. So that can be things like journaling, and you can journal for like 5 or 10 minutes, like stream of consciousness, doing some restorative yoga like legs up the wall, taking a bath is one of my favorite things to do to wind down. Reading something that's not super stimulating, so not reading something that's going to get your mind going. Staying away from the to-do list. I had one client who couldn't help but look at her to-do list right before bed, and that's a surefire way to like get the mind going and not go to sleep. Really, again, this is it's a very personalized thing. But basically finding the things. One client I had liked to knit before bed. Finding the things that will calm you down so that when you get into bed, your body is more ready to fall asleep. And then this last one, and I almost feel like I should have started with this one. This one is my favorite out of all of these, is the practice of Yoga Nidra. And Yoga Nidra is a meditation lying down to access inner bliss. That's actually the purpose of it. The purpose of it isn't to make you fall asleep, but it is so relaxing that people that are, deprived of sleep often will fall asleep during the practice. The intention of the practice is really to stay conscious while it's happening, while you're listening to the meditation. And then I always suggest, if that happens and if you don't fall asleep, which is fine actually, it's great, at the end of the practice to say to yourself, the practice is complete, I will now go to sleep. Now, this practice is amazing for a lot of reasons. One, it is said that for every hour of Yoga Nidra that is practiced, it is like getting 4 hours of restorative sleep. The second is that it can be used to help you fall asleep. It can be used if you wake up at 3 in the morning and your mind is going, you can turn on a Yoga Nidra, and whether or not you fall back asleep, you're getting that restorative element. You can also use this if you have space in the morning and you wake up feeling like you didn't sleep well. You can pop on 20 minutes of Yoga Nidra and listen to it and then get up. And a lot of times that gives you a little bit of extra energy. The other way that I like to use Yoga Nidra, and again, this is if you happen to have the privilege of having the space or you work from home, to that crash at 3 in the afternoon, Instead of reaching for coffee, reach for the yoga nidra. Do that for half an hour and see how you feel. And not only is it going to, again, restore, it's in the sense of the sleep, not only is it going to help you fall asleep, but it also will bring restoration back into the body, even if you are not able to fall back asleep. So that over time we can negate some of these negative consequences. Yoga Nidra can be found in a number of places. There's some free ones on the internet. There's some free ones on Insight Timer. And also Tracy Stanley has Radiant Rest Practices, and those are my favorite. Those are online. They're a companion to her book, and they're free as well. So a lot of resources for that. These 3 practices on their own can do so much for you. However, if you would like to take a deeper dive into some of this with me, I am going to be offering a 3-week course for deeper sleep, 3 weeks to deeper sleep, that you can do on your own. And I will talk specifically a little bit more there about hot flashes and addressing those as part of this. Now, again, everything affects everything else. So we're going to be starting to touch into other areas of your life. And also, if you want to take a deeper dive on your own, not necessarily with that course, I still have my starter kit available at the time of this recording for free. I'm not sure how much longer I'll be offering for free on my website. And it will help you evaluate your sleep and then bring some practices in to help restore. But these 3 key ones, I know they're so simple, and sometimes simple can be hard to put into place, can do it on their own for you. And so I want you to know that. The last thing is I do plan to offer as well, beyond the dive of doing it yourself, another kind of branch to this, another evolution, as if you will, where I lead a group through the process of finding that deeper sleep in conjunction with live support from me. So be on the lookout for those things. And in the meantime, I would love it if you would follow me, subscribe, and please, please, please grab the starter kit on my website below. It is amazing. It will help you to walk through some of these things on your own so that you can start on your journey to feeling really good during your perimenopause transition. Have a great one.